I am currently a consultant focused on climate change education. I've written a book called Climate Smart and Energy Wise, which is mainly meant for teachers to help them understand how they can weave climate and energy and sustainability topics into the curriculum. These are very interdisciplinary, cross-cutting themes, and often they fall through the cracks of the traditional curriculum, but they're also very integrating. And I think when they're taught in a very motivated way, the students can get very excited about what they're learning and then want to take what they're learning into applications and action.
And why did you decide to come to the COP?
I have been tracking the COPs for many years, and I was actually in Copenhagen before the COP in 2009.
How was that?
Well, I was at a conference on climate education that was held in October before the meeting in December, and the Danish government brought together people from all over the world to focus on climate education, and it was productive, several days of discussions and brainstorming, but then there was no follow-up. And I think that's one of my big concerns with these type of meetings is that it's great to get together and meet people, but oftentimes the follow-up is lacking.
So how do you hope this COP in Paris can be different?
Well, especially around education, communication, and outreach related to climate change, the causes and effects of climate change, and then how to deal with the risks and come up with responses. It's just imperative that we work more closely together in an integrated way with the global community. There's some countries that are doing fantastic work. I'm most familiar with what's happening in the United States, which is operating in a bit of a bubble, frankly, in terms of the climate education work, but there's some fantastic tools, a lot of online resources and so forth that are just not being used or appreciated by other parts of the world. So if we can have more of a connection between education programs and so forth, I think we can make a lot more progress.
And you mentioned the US context. Do you find political obstacles to education in the US, given that there's quite a strong skeptical element politically?
As a matter of fact, we are about to publish a paper in Science magazine on a survey that we did with middle and high school teachers, science teachers throughout the United States. And we did indeed find that many of them teach climate change in a very confused fashion. They often cover it, but in a way that ends up with students being confused about whether it's happening or not, how serious is it. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done in terms of giving teachers background and confidence to teach it in a way that students really are empowered by what they're learning.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Can I just say one more thing? So one last concept, I've been proposing this idea of an ecosystem model, eco meaning education, communication, and outreach. I think sometimes we confuse the three. I think of outreach as social media in particular and short bursts of information. I mean, Twitter and Facebook and so forth are fantastic ways of outreach, but they're no replacement for more in-depth information and communication. And likewise, communication sometimes is confused with education, which really has to go deeper and takes more time to develop. So when we think of these as sort of like a Venn diagram, education, communication, and outreach, and look at where they're connected, I think that's where we can find real synergies. But they are different, they work on different timescales, and we should be much more scientific in a way about how we move forward with those.
Okay, so we need to find the sweet spot between those three things.
Precisely.
Okay, thank you, Mark.